Welcome to today's Awesome Marriage Podcast. I am so glad to have you join us as we begin our new format. I have a new co-host, Nancy. Welcome. Been trying to get her on this for a long time, and she finally said yes. So she'll be joining me at least once a month. And then the other times we'll have some great special guests, which we'll tell you about later. And we also have probably once a month that I'll just answer your questions. So you can send them then to me at drkim@awesomemarriage.com and just put podcast in the subject line. And I would love to answer your questions when those times roll around.
Sounds good to me.
So you know what's interesting as we begin to do this, Tiffany and the people who get emails from people and kind of go through those have said so many people don't really know our story other than what they see today. They think we were perfect our whole lives. Not that we're perfect today. No. So I think one of the things we might do is just kind of talk about how we met. And so, okay, I'll go first. So I went to TCU and as a freshman. My junior year, Nancy came to TCU as a freshman, but we didn't meet until the second semester. Don't really think we ever saw each other, which is amazing because TCU at that time wasn't that big. But I had a roommate and she had a good friend that thought we should get together. And so they set us up on a blind date, which I hated blind dates. But for some reason, thank goodness, I decided to go. And so I go and pick Nancy up. She's in the freshman girls dorm at TCU, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's this person going to be like? And the elevator door opens and there she is. And I'm thinking, I think I'll get married today. Oh. Well, maybe not exactly. No. But I thought this is going to be a good blind date. And so then we go on the date and honestly, I just blew it. I did what a lot of fraternity guys would do at that time and had a little to drink. And so anyway, I heard the next day she didn't want to ever see me again. Something like that.
I never said.
Well, it was close. What did you say?
Sort of. I just said the date was okay.
Yeah, and so I was scared to death to call you back because I knew you were going to say no. And so tell the rest what happened then when I didn't call you back.
Oh, well, it kind of got me intrigued, and I thought, well, he wasn't that bad, so why didn't he call me back? So you heard about it. You called me.
I called him.
The rest is history.
It is. It
50,
is. And 5 years, 6 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, 57
because we dated 2 years before we got married.
Did.
We got married in January 2 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's amazing.
It took. Blind dates can be good.
Yeah, exactly. And since then, doing pre-marriage classes and stuff, a lot of people meet on blind dates, and it works out really, really well.
Yeah.
So we're a testament to that too. So what were our expectations about marriage before we got married? What about you?
Well, I was your typical 60s, 70s lady who wanted the little, perfect house with the picket fence and flowers in the yard and a dog or two or a couple of kids,
Swing set.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing.
I had the, little girl dream even then.
Yeah, and I think I just went into it because my parents' marriage was so good. I didn't realize till later on when we were married that they had rough times too. And by the time I was really around their marriage, they'd worked through a lot of things, or when I was aware of it. And so I thought, well, our marriage will be like my parents. We won't argue, we won't fight. We'll just enjoy each other, we'll serve each other, and things will be great. And that lasted, a week after our honeymoon, something like that?
Well, I think it started on the honeymoon.
Yeah? Well, our honeymoon story we should tell sometime.
No, we're not going to tell that.
Okay, we won't tell that one this time. Nothing bad that would be censored, but just a different story for a different time. So I think that was kind of mine going in. So then we had fights, and I thought, what in the heck is going on here? We made a mistake, or I made a mistake. But then I didn't want to leave. And so I think we both, and you didn't get the picket fence, although we had our first apartment was pretty nice. And what was it went wrong with it? Something went wrong with it.
I don't even remember.
It was brand new and something went wrong. And so we had an excuse to move out. And so we did. And then moved into a house about 3 years later. So when it comes to careers, did one of you put your dreams on the back burner? Have you always pursued your careers to get simultaneously? Was there ever tension with work in the family?
I think you were the one that, I just had jobs you know, you started out in the grocery business.
Right, with my dad.
And then well, tell the story.
Well, yeah, I really thought that I wasn't sure. I felt called to ministry when I was 12. And so through high school, I bargained with God and said, I'm going to be the best Christian businessman you've ever seen. But God kept after me. And so I went and visited with my dad. He had supermarkets in Oklahoma City. My granddad started the business years ago. And so that was great. I got to work with my dad, all that kind of stuff. But every year around Christmas time, it'd be like, yeah, you're doing fine, but I have something else for you. And so probably, I think the kids were probably about 5 and 8. And I told Nancy, I said, I got to do something. And so we went to dinner and talked it through. And I kind of told her what I think that would mean to us. Our income's going to drop drastically. I'm going to have to go back to school. That's going to take a lot. And what'd you say?
Great.
Yeah, it was like...
I mean, if God's calling you, who am I to stop?
Well, I think, yeah, and to have that support made all the difference in the world, because there was a lot of late nights when I would study after guys were all in bed, and, you know, just all things that come with going to grad school. And I loved what I was learning. I mean, you know, I just kept going to school. You thought I was going to go to school forever because I'd do something and get a degree or something, and I'd just kind of, but I was just so hungry for all that knowledge.
Yeah.
and going into Christian counseling and all that kind of stuff that just made, it was good. And so that's when you really kind of began a career, is when we were really poor and you thought we're going to starve to death.
No, I did not. No, my family had been realtors, several, and so I thought, well, I'm going to give that a try. So I did, and the rest is history.
Well, you were awesome. You, in your company, you were your Rookie of the Year the first year, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you don't tell people that, but you were. I mean, you were, and I think God blessed it. With you and your personality and everything, you just...
He knew we needed it.
Yeah, he did, and he brought people in. I mean, you sold house to our vet, our dentist, or, you know, everybody.
Whoever I could get my hands on.
I would do that. So it was fun. And so I think that really helped us with you being real estate. If you had to be gone in the evening or something to show house or something, I was there to take care of the kids. And so we balanced that out pretty good. And as you got more into the business, you were able to set your hours pretty much what you wanted them at that time, which was really good. Okay, here we go. What's it like parenting alongside each other? How did we do that?
Well, it was kind of difficult for you and me because you didn't want to do the disciplinary part. And I was pretty good at that.
You were real good at it.
But I was just the bad guy all the time, and he was, you know,
it was something I would
fun guy, the
definitely
fun dad.
Change. We go back, because I think I still could have been the fun dad and still do discipline.
You're right.
But yeah, sometimes Nancy had to put in a discipline or grounding, and it was like there's a ball game or something, and I wanted Grant or Julie to be playing in it, and I thought, so I'd take them a couple times. What did make you happy when your wife's on the sidelines just glaring at you the whole time? As a coach, you don't feel like I've really accomplished much. Right. So we learned, and I think we got better as we went on.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we learned, I think, is when the kids were in high school, and our kids were really good kids. I mean, we didn't have any major stuff. Those are things that we had to decide, like they wanted to go to a certain event or something. Do we let them go? And I remember one time we were just talking about it, and I think you said, well, let's pray about it. And so we did, and then it was like, a minute after, we just both had the same conclusion on what we should do. And so I think God taught us that way too, that he cares about everything. And the more we brought him into our conversations, our decisions, that he was there to guide us and help us. And that was really encouraging. And I think that helped us begin to pray about things together a lot.
Well, we started praying the first night of our marriage.
Our wedding night.
Yeah,
in your nightgown.
And we pretty much 99% of the time have done that, and it's
every night
saved our marriage.
Oh yeah, it's there's times that we're not real happy with each other, but when you pray and you come before God, it's kind of hard to get up would kneel and pray by the bed and still start the fight again. It was kind of like it just.
That's true.
Like this. Well, I think it made us put things in perspective. Yeah. We did not choose our battles well in the early years of marriage, and I think that helped teach us that. But I guess what I was saying about with the kids and stuff, but we've got to where now if we're having lunch or something and something comes up we think we need to pray about, we'll just pray then, in addition to the consistency of praying every night together throughout our marriage.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about being grandparents and a great-grandparents now with Shep
What about it? It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think we tag team really well with that, with our grandkids. We enjoyed them. I think we're pretty good about honoring what their parents wanted when they're with us, other than maybe we let them eat a few things that maybe we weren't. The parents never said, don't do it.
Send them home.
Yeah. So we, anyway, took both of them, both sets of them, my son's two boys when they were like 5 and 8 to Disney World. And we took Julie's when they were like 6 and 9 to Disney World. It was one of the amazing trips because we didn't let parents go. And we closed the park, whatever park was open the latest, we closed it down that night. Came home, we let them sleep as late as they wanted, and we get up and went hard the next day. And we did that for 4 or 5 days in a row. And it was a blast. And our kids had a blast. I mean, the kids still talk about the memories that we did with that. So we've enjoyed them. And now we have a 3-month-old great-grandson.
Almost 4 months.
And and he's amazing. And it's just fun watching him grow, and just blessed that we get to have a great-grandchild. You
just don't believe that you could love your grandkids as much as you love your kids, but then they come along and you're like, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. And the same thing with a great-grandchild. Yeah,
and Sunny's our oldest granddaughter. She's the mother of Shep, and she and her husband Brody are great. But we had Sunny and Grant and Robbie married, and Sunny was 4, and we had so much fun with her. She, I can remember taking her places before we had other grandkids, and so we've really enjoyed our grandkids, and I think that's kind of what we're supposed to do with grandkids. We didn't have to do discipline. We didn't. I mean, their parents would tell us, they're really, I don't know, I hate to leave them with you. They've been rough, and they come here, and it's just like, we have no problem at all.
Yeah. That's true.
With us. So that's been really, really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit. The question came up about Julie's diagnosis. Our daughter Julie was diagnosed with MS about a year and a half ago now. Something like coming close to 2 years probably. And how we really saw her faith grow. We really saw her accept it and push into it, I think, in a way. She was on a cane. Today, you can't even tell she has it. Has infusions once a month. You sit with her for a lot of those infusions. But I think just, how's it affected us, do you think?
Well, it's made us more aware of people with chronic illness.
Yeah.
You think all, there's people suffering out there, but when you see it detailed in your life, and it really, brings it into focus.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw Julie, we were having a family dinner at a restaurant, and so she walked in. The first time I'd seen her with that cane and the struggle she was having. As a dad, I don't care if she was 40 years old. It just is hard.
Yeah.
But seeing the way she has approached it, seeing what God has done. And, we did the MS Walk last year in Oklahoma City with our whole family. We were all there. But I think just where Julie is, when her timing, there's so much medication and stuff to help now. And we saw people that had MS probably for years and years and didn't have the advantage of that too. And my heart went out to them, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the most challenging season in your marriage? And how'd you navigate it?
Well, we'd been married about 5 years. And Grant was like 6 months old, and I kind of went, I felt like maybe I'd made a mistake. I wasn't doing what God wanted me to do, and I was not very far along in my faith and a lot immature, and I was just really struggling, and I went up and talked to a friend who was about 20 years older than me. She was a godly woman that I knew I could trust. And I asked for a friend, what would she tell them? And she said, well, I would tell them, first of all, that God was there when they got married. He's still there. And you made a covenant before him. And that counts. Yeah. And so I just took it to heart and went, well, we got to make the most of this. It was like it just changed it. And I can remember sitting at home. I guess I was with Grant. He's probably taking a nap. And I was thinking, I knew we were going to go talk to somebody. And I thought, I don't know if I even knew who you were going to talk to at that point. But I was hoping you were talking to somebody like who you did. Somebody good.
And you came in and said, we're going to make this work. And we took divorce off the table. We kept it off the table. Right. It was a huge thing. And that woman that poured into you that I think had a huge impact on our marriage. And the other was the lady that mentored you before we got married and told you the most important thing to do in marriage was prayer. And that's why you said, let's do, on our wedding night, we need to pray. We need to pray. And so, and that was just the wisdom of people above us. And, you know, I love it.
It's so important to have some godly couple, you know, that's, you know, a few years older than you or lots of years older than you to come alongside you and give you, you know, godly wisdom and
absolutely
and help. We all need it.
And, you know,
I mean, we still need help once in a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody
you know,
does.
And it's so fun, you know, I think too, we've had the honor of mentoring some couples, and I still don't know that we have that much to offer them, but we always learn from it, and they seem to get something.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
But it's fun, and so if you want a mentor couple and you're in a church, I'd ask your pastor. There's couples in your church, and they may not think they'd be good mentors, but if your pastor thinks they would, yeah, just ask them. Say, can we go to lunch sometime?
Correct.
And try to have somebody that, like you said, maybe a stage ahead of you. Maybe if you got babies, they got teenagers, or they're empty nest, or, you know, just so that they've had experiences that you haven't had yet.
I've been there. Yeah.
Okay, has Christ always been the center of our relationship? If not, what major difference or shift did you see take place when we started putting him first?
Well, I think when we really started putting him first was when we made the decision to live by our covenant.
Yeah.
And we really needed to have him. I mean, he saved our marriage and uses it now for his glory. And we couldn't be, you know, more grateful.
Yeah, I agree. I think we both would have said when we got married we were Christians, but we were so we had a lot that we had no idea about.
Yeah, we
but church was important to us, and we went to church. It's funny. Nancy grew up Episcopal. I grew up Methodist. So when we first got married, we'd go to the Episcopal church one Sunday, Methodist church the next Sunday, and finally, there was a little Methodist church we'd never gone to, and we were running late to the Episcopal church, and you said, "Let's go here," and we stayed there for, I don't know, 15 years.
Yeah, probably.
And it was a great place for us that time. We had a pastor that loved us, that would come and hang out with us at our house, and we had people that became mentors to us in that church that really cared for us and poured into us, and our pastor who put us in leadership roles and just wanted, you taught and I taught and different things that it was a great place to grow. And it was a smaller church, and I think like that we knew everybody and they all knew us, and it was great.
That's why it's so important to have a village, a tribe, a life group, whatever you want to call them, that will do life with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's incredibly
It is. And we
important.
found that as God led us to another church, and I think a couple to where we are now, and we've always tried to find people in the church that we could look up to, admire, even now, today.
Yeah, true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to couples who are struggling to keep Christ at the center of their relationship?
Well, just don't give up.
Yeah.
I mean, keep on keeping on. I mean, you know, we go through dry times too.
Sure.
And, you know, we just keep praying. We keep going to church. We keep seeking him, you know, and letting him guide us, whether we're listening, whether we're trying or not. He's not going to let you go.
No, and I think that, you know, from a spiritual standpoint, the enemy does not want you to put Christ first. And so there may be some obstacles there. Don't let those keep you from continuing to pursue him, because you'll never regret it.
That's right.
Just keep and inviting him into the middle of your marriage, and that's where he wants to be.
Exactly.
What biblical truth or scriptures have been foundational in your marriage?
Well, I think like just John 3:16, God gave us his son that we can live forever.
Yeah.
We can live abundantly now, and we can live forever with him and in paradise, in heaven. And I think that's the foundation. Just, he's been so generous, and he's blessed us so much that we can't help but just thank him, and we can live for him and let him use us in any way he can.
Yeah, that's really well said.
Well,
I'd say people that have followed the podcast for a long time know that my one of my favorite verses is in Genesis when it talks about Adam and Eve and says they were naked and unashamed. And, everybody kind of laughs and says, oh, naked. Yeah, well, that was probably a pretty good deal, too. I guess the atmosphere was just perfect because the woman I'm married to gets cold real easy. So it had to be just perfect temperature all the time. But what I see in that, they were open with each other. They're vulnerable. They didn't hide anything from each other. And I think that's what God wants for us in marriage, to be as transparent and open so that I'm not hiding something or thinking that, gosh, if she finds that out, what will she do? Or will she leave me or stuff like that? It's like we just decided to put everything out there and know everything about each other. And some things are harder to deal with than others.
Yeah.
But I don't want to, I think we realize I don't know that we ever kept secrets from each other.
I don't think so.
I think we always have been pretty transparent. And so I think that part of that verse is what has really appealed to me over time. If we could go back, I love this.
And another one.
Okay.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Oh, yeah, from Philippians.
Some days.
Yeah, we do, because sometimes we're pretty weak.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, though. I don't think we've both been weak at the same time. Maybe. Sometimes, maybe with parents' deaths or things like that were a struggle. I mean, no matter what, I was close to your parents. You were very close to my parents, especially my mom. And so those were hard. But yeah, most of the time I think God, and we were able to come alongside each other, which is, yeah. I remember, the hardest was when my dad died, and I just, I guess I thought he'd live forever, and didn't. And I remember just laying on the bed, and this waves of grief were going over me, and you just came in, you didn't say anything, you just laid down beside me and put your arm around me. And that meant so much. It just, because you were there, and you cared, you didn't have to have any words, and God used you in that way. Help me through that. Okay, last question. Last question. If you could go back and give your newlywed selves one piece of advice, what would it be?
Know from the beginning that you made a covenant before God, and He witnessed it, and He put His approval on it. And a covenant is higher than a commitment.
Yeah.
You need to just hang in there. Things are not going to be good sometimes, but it's so worth it if you work on it. Yeah,
because I think one of the things that as a marriage counselor bothers me is the divorce rates, and especially when I hear how many young couples that haven't been married even less than a year that get divorced. And I think it's because of expectations, but you're going to have trouble. Jesus said, in this world you'll have trouble, but He overcame the world. In other words, He's saying, yeah, you'll go through struggles, but I'll help you get through it.
Yeah.
And so I think just knowing that there's always an answer, Jesus always gives you a way out. And I think those are important. And then I think, to me, one of the best verses in the Bible for marriage is James 1:19. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. If you think about that, I mean, if we all did that daily in our marriages, there wouldn't be a lot of conflict, because we would, I think the more we learn to communicate better, the less we fought.
Right.
Because we listened and understood each other. We were able to empathize more with each other.
Right.
And the more you do that, it's like, okay, yeah, and value the other person and their differences. That'd probably be the other thing I would say is embrace those differences. Don't let them pull you apart. Don't try to change them. We did that for quite a while, trying to change each other into who we thought they would be. I mean, she would have listened to me. Oh my gosh, her life would have been so good. That's what I thought. And thank goodness I married a strong-willed woman that was not going to let me put her in any kind of a box, right?
I could have taken a couple of the hints.
No, I don't know. It just probably was the way I did it.
Say something about what you just said, and we were talking about with covenant, to those people out there that may be having, marriages where there is abuse or neglect or, any kind of abuse, where they need to get help and know that, God will see you through, but it's not a recipe for success to stay in a marriage like that.
Absolutely. We never want anyone that's in an abusive relationship to stay. Now, what I've seen people do is, we have a great agency in Oklahoma City that women who can go to, and there's all kinds of help there. You want to get help, you want to get safe, you want to make sure your kids are safe. And sometimes I've seen that's a wake-up call for the husband, and over time, and usually takes quite a while, maybe a year, they come around. But you've got to be safe. God does not expect anybody, I don't think, to be in an abusive marriage. That doesn't match up. One, because it's not marriage. Two, it's broken covenant. And so God's, you got to take care of yourself. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a good disclaimer we need to put in there. Last thing, we would like you guys to be praying for us. I think as we start this new podcast thing, we've seen as we do different things, the enemy kind of can attack us. And so pray for protection for us. Yeah. Pray for wisdom as we do these podcasts, and that we try to help you, help other people around the world, talk about things that will help them and help their marriages, help them grow closer to each other, closer to God.
Well, for whom much has been given, much is required. Yeah. So if you have a blessing and your marriage is so blessed, you need to share that with other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Encourage them.
And we'd also appreciate your prayers for our daughter and her family as she continues her fight. And let us know if we can pray for you in any way.
We'd love to.
Again, email Dr. Kim at awesomemarriage.com in the what do you call that?
The subject line.
I can't remember that. Subject line, put prayer request, and we'd love to pray for you. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This has been fun. It was great to do this with you. And we'll be talking some different topics and things I think will be really helpful and interesting. And so we'll see you.
And if you have any suggestions, write those.
Absolutely. Send a suggestion. Put podcast in that, what do you call it, subject line, and say suggestion. And we'd love that, because we want to talk about things that are going to help you guys.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and do something awesome for your marriage today.